Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Magra. I'm the director of the Center for the Study of Tennesseans in War, and it's our mission to research, preserve, and share the stories of Tennesseans who have been involved in wars in our past. And we're privileged today to have a group of people who live in Tennessee and who have been involved in some of our past wars. And in particular, there's a lot of veterans here from the Korean War. So if we could go around and I want you to do three things. This is a test now. Three things. I want you to tell me your name, what year you were born, and how many years you've lived in Tennessee. Okay, we'll start with you. Your name, when you were born, and how many years in Tennessee.
I got my name down, that's all right. My name is Bill Clark. I was born in 1932. And I've been in Tennessee probably the last 15 years. Okay.
You're up.
My name is Bernet, Poczobut. I was in during the Korean War aboard the USS Wisconsin. We were over there 3 times. I've been in Tennessee for 43 years.
What year were you born?
Oh, 1931.
Born in 1931.
You're old.
How about you, sir?
My name is Ray Hayes. I was born in 1928 in Granger County, Tennessee. I've lived in Tennessee all my life except for the time that I was out in military service.
Bob?
My name is Bob Chittum, and I was born January 22nd, 1932. I've been a native Knoxvilleian from birth, and until I left the Knoxville to serve in the Marine Corps. And then later, after Tennessee, I moved out of Knoxville in 1959 and did not come back until 2014.
How about you, sir?
My name is Charlie Anderson. I was born in 1929. I've lived in Tennessee for 27 years. I'm born in New York City.
How about you, sir?
Harold Maples, born May 14, 1930, lifetime resident.
Conley Miracle. I was born 1936. Other than my wonderful 3.5 years spent on the Ohio and Pennsylvania line, I spent the rest of my life in East Tennessee.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you all for your service. Appreciate you. I thought we'd talk a little bit about why you got involved in the military. Was it family members? Was it friends pressuring you? Were you drafted? We'll start with you, sir, and if you can talk to us about why you joined the military.
I know exactly why. It was for educational purposes. I was working with a road construction survey crew in Fort Worth, Texas. Young kids did out of high school. And I was talking to these old codgers, and they said, we better get a college education. I said, I don't have any money. Well, you can join the service. Zippo, that's what I joined.
Mm-hmm. How about you, sir? Why did you join the military?
Why I joined the military is because at the time they were getting people to taking them into the service. I can't remember what that's called.
Draft.
Pardon?
Draft.
You were
Yeah,
drafted.
there was a draft going on. They drafted my brother, who was older than me, and I was next to be drafted. And so I didn't want to go in the Army, so I joined the Navy. And that's the reason why I got into the service.
All right. What year was that for you?
That was 1952.
1950.
Sounds right.
Yeah. And for you,
1950.
1950. All righty. How about you, sir?
I joined the Army in 1946, June of 1946. I volunteered. The Second World War, of course, had ended shortly before. I guess it's patriotic, one reason I joined. Another reason I probably would have been drafted. They were still doing some drafting. And so I joined in, for patriotic reasons. I volunteered to join for 2 years.
Yep. Now, were you like Bob? Bob over there was hoping that World War II would last long enough that he could have fought in it.
Well, of course, the war was over in June of 46. It ended in 45, but they didn't declare it over till December of 46. So I'm considered a World War II veteran.
Great. Bob?
Well, as you said, during World War II, I was kept up with it as best I could from the newspaper and the newsreels and the movies. And I just was hoping I could join up and help us with our war effort. And I'd heard about what went on in Guadalcanal. And so I said, I want to be in the Marines. And the war was over before I got old enough. So it just so happened that when I worked as an usher in Rivera Theater, the projection guy was a retired sergeant in the Marines. He says, well, hey, we've got a reserve station on Alcoa Highway. Why don't you just join the reserve? And I said, well, okay. So I got my mother's permission to join at 17.
Because you were 17, yeah.
17 years old. And,
You still weren't old enough to be in the military.
and so that was March 1949, and that summer I did 2 weeks active duty in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, then came back, and about March of 1950, I was having a hard time using Knoxville transit lines to get from where I lived in East Knoxville all the way down to Alcoa Highway, especially when I was working 7 days a week as a theater and still as a junior in Knoxville High. So I said, well, how can I defer going until a little later on? And they said, you can be inactive if you want. And I said, okay, I'll take that, because that was a lot of pressure on me to get down there. So graduated from Modox High in June 1950, the same time the Korean War broke out. And so I was going to go join, and they said, oh, you can't join, you're in reserves, you've got to wait. And I said, oh, okay. So all of my guys that I was just on active duty went and made the Incheon landing. They gave me the choice. You want to go join your old troops, or you want to go to Parris Island, South Carolina? And I said, I need more training. So I went to Parris Island. And this was, I went there that October of 1950. And out to Camp Pendleton, January 1951. And after more infantry training and cold weather training, they volunteered me to go into tank school at Camp Del Mar. And so I learned how to drive a standard transmission M4 tank. After that, we caught the next transport over to Korea, and I got my CNAs after 3 days. So
Yep.
I was a tank driver over there until my enlistment ran out. And they said, we're going to have to send you home if you don't read up. And I said, well, send me home. So I was back to Knoxville by April the 1st, 1952. Fortunately, I was able to use the GI Bill to go to UT, at least for a couple of years. Okay, that's enough for me.
How about you, sir?
I graduated high school in December of 46.
December.
Couldn't afford to go to college. So I figured the next best thing is maybe I'll sign up. But we had a large family, lived in a small apartment, so it was good for me to leave. So I joined up the Army in January 47, and it was the U.S. Army Air Corps. There was no Air Force. The Army Air Corps. I joined up in January 47. They sent me.
Why did you join, and why the U.S. Army Air Corps?
Well, I was always interested in airplanes, and basically, the Air Corps was the Army Air Corps was the only place you could sign up. There was no Air Force at that time. The Air Force didn't become an Air Force until late 47, and I was sent the occupation in Japan. And I spent almost 3 years there, and that was my series. That was my first hitch in the series in the service. I got out, joined the inactive reserve. I was talked into it because they said, "Well, if you ever have to come back, you can keep your rank." Well, they called me back 4 months later for Korea.
And how about you, sir? When did you join, and why did you join?
I didn't join.
Okay. When were you drafted then?
I was a junior at the University of Tennessee. My age group came up and I was drafted. I was married in July of that year.
What year was that, sir?
Pardon?
What year?
52.
52.
So when I got home to my new wife, she handed me these neat papers and said, "Did you pay your fees today?" And I said, "No, because I always wait because of a long line." And she said, "Don't." So I was drafted into service and basic training in heavy weapons. Went straight to Korea. Took that train ride north and wondered if you're going to make it back today. So out of the ashes of that, I was able to keep a pretty good chronology of things that happened. And I was in grade registration, so that was a tough field, to be in because of casualties. So I put together all my things in this story. I wrote a soldier story to remember the guys that didn't make it back.
Yes.
So
Do you want to hold that up so everybody at home can see?
That's been a blessing to me.
Thank you,
I was able to make quite a contribution to my wife so they can see through that. So it's been great.
Thank you.
I had a blessed life.
It's kind of interesting. Out of a small group like this, 2 of them have written books.
Yeah.
Earl wrote a book also. He's not here today. And you have yours.
You mean Earl?
Huh?
Earl.
Yeah, he wrote a book. So that's 2 out of this group have written and published a
We
book.
had pretty good success.
Great. And you, sir, when did you join and why? Did you join?
You sure you want to know?
Yes, we do.
Well, I had a little hardships in my young life, and I was late getting in school.
Let me get out.
And I was raised in Upper Claiborne County in the Appalachian Mountains. We had no electricity, no phones, nobody did. It's a rural area. Well, I'm going to college. I'm a nut. Now, here's what happens. I get delayed with personal effects in my family and my life. So it was nothing unheard of because you're 8 years old when you start school then out in the country. Well, I was past 16 when I graduated the 8th grade, but I got my high school equivalency out of the 8th grade. Now I'm going to college. Passed every class, everything with an A, 100%. I never took a test by 7th, 8th grade. I didn't make 100 of them. Now I go and I got no counselor. I got nobody to talk to. And so I talked to this old farmer buddy, old man that I knew there. And he said, well, what about LMU? You can go there. What about Berea College? You can go there. And you can go anywhere you want to go. So I said, yeah, but if I get a few months in, I'm going to get drafted. He said, yes. So I said, hey, and then my older brother was my counselor. And he was crazier than I was. And he said, why don't you join the Air Force? He said, go on GI Bill when you get out. And he said, what's your favorite school? And I said, UT. And he said, well, good. And this old man said, Now I'll finance you if you want to go to LMU, but not UT. So now I go to the Air Force.
Why the Air Force? Why did your brother recommend the Air Force to you?
Because it's higher educated. You don't get shot at as much.
Less casualties.
And I had survival training now with the gas and the poison,
Yeah.
live ammunition, everything. I had no infantry training, but I had full survival training. And the sergeant there, one of the guys asked him, why don't you give us combat training? He said, well, where you're going to be at, we at war with China, you know, we still had a chance when I went to the Korean War then. And he said, well, you're going to be on the top of Forsaken Mountain somewhere directing bombers over the target. If they find out where you're at, they're going to blow your ass up. And you ain't going to have a chance. So that's where the frame come in at, that they trained us to run. That was among us, you know, that was a joke. So now, I've gone through that, the Air Force. I love planes. I love to be around them. I was fascinated by planes. And then I get out and I take supervisory training. I done passed my exam now for UT or any other college. And I went to work for a graphic arts company. I love graphic arts. And I went and done well in that. And I was a supervisor. I went to work in 59. In 1966, I was the plant supervisor for Bell and Howell out of Chicago in their business equipment group. I went to their 2-year course, a college level course. And then after that, I went to managing a private company, a mid-sized private company, and taking courses at UT. And then I went and took another college course, 2 years, industrial electricity and electronics, got my degree in that, still going to UT. Then I went up teaching graphic arts at Fulton High School 20 years after I retired. So that's why I chose Air Force, was the educational benefits, and it was something I was really interested in. They did 10 times more for me, I guess. I'm just picking a figure, more for me than I did for them. Now, when I get out, I owe somebody something. I took all these privileges for nothing, except serving my time. So I joined I got credited. When I went in, the treaty had already been agreed on, even though Bill informed me bitterly it had not been signed then. 9 months prior to me going in the Air Force, it was agreed on to cease fire. 9 months after I went in, it was passed that the Korean War was over with. It's 9 months on each side from the time I went in, May the 3rd, 1954. And then I realized I'm going to be in this 8 years. I served in the Korean War. I served in the Vietnam conflict. I served in the Cold. But then I joined the Korean War, lifetime member of the Korean War Veterans Association, because I owed somebody something. So I represent these people. I don't represent me. I didn't fight in any war. I was on the borderline of Ohio and Pennsylvania, in one of the nicest places you could ever be, except in the middle of the winter. And it's brutal. The Allegheny Mountains, they're beautiful. Those little rivers. So I had a vacation for 3.5 years off the bitter farm life of Cleveland County. Now, I'd still be going to UT if I was still teaching, doing things. That's my specialty school. I took curriculum writing. I took job analysis, shop safety. I'm OSHA certified supervisor, and that counts. And UT is my school, even though I don't have a degree there.
Yep. Never did go to LMU.
I never did get to LMU. Never did, but I took a specialty course in industrial electricity and electronics, which is good.
Yeah.
And then I took Bell and Howell's. They trained supervisor for Oak Ridge, TVA, and all over the world. And I finished that course. And then it's free. Everything's free. I don't pay for my UT, doggone it. They make me pay. I have to pay my education over there.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed my educational experience. I enjoyed the Air Force. I was a graphic artist. My student won first place in the United States on the promotional bulletin board and several other things. So my life from a sharecropper's son in Claiborne County, living in a shack. When I went in the Air Force, I had to learn how to use a urinal. First bad thing I ever had punished for, not flushing the urinal because I didn't know how to flush the thing. I never seen one. And the guys that was telling me that when they asked me, said, when I went in, they said, "Are you a Catholic or Protestant?" I said, "Neither one, I'm a Baptist." Well, that didn't go over big. Do you know where that wound up at? Well, that wound up bad big as not knowing how to flush the urinal. And that's a short of how my life went in there. What point I'm making is, I grew up in the Air Force. And I met guys in there that was, some was, I tell you, looked about like you, dark hair, very nice. One in New York I told you about, Pasquarelli, from the Bronx in New York.
Hey, Conley, if that's the short version, I'd hate to hear the long one.
Oh, you hush, I'm talking. Now, that's all I got to say. The Air Force was extremely good to me. I don't represent me, I represent these people. That's all I got to say. Huh?
How about a loan?
Well, one thing that you all brought up was the draft. Can I ask you all as a group what you thought about the draft? On the one hand, it's kind of un-American, isn't it?
No,
To force people against their will to fight.
No.
On the other hand, it's kind of a necessity.
It's very American.
You kind of need it. And it has been a part of every American war that we've ever fought going back
What
to.
do you mean it's un-American?
Well, you can look at it and say you're taking somebody against their will.
Good, that's good.
And making them do anything, whatever it is.
That's what
and say it's un-American, because America's about freedom.
What you're doing, you're taking the cream of the crop. You're taking the person off the street, you're taking the baker, you're taking the Protestant, whatever, Baptist, whatever it was. You've taken those people that are Americanized and you put them in a conflict and they're going to come through. They'll do it every time and they'll come back home and they won't talk about it or what have you. And that's really the people that wins the war and keeps our nation like it is now.
There was a low
Because it's the ones
percentage,
that come off of the streets.
low percentage of draft dodgers.
I wanted to ask you, why do you think that's un-American?
Well, it's not that I think it's un-American. I'm just throwing out a perspective that is America stands for freedom and liberty. And anything that limits or curtails or takes away your personal freedom is therefore un-American.
When I encroach on your space, that's where my freedom ends.
Well, you come back with that contribution, and that makes you more American.
What's that, Dad?
I say, come back with that contribution you made for your country, makes you more American. I mean, it's not that wind out there that waves that flag. It's that last breath that soldier took.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made me want to write about the ones that did not make it back. I had the particular one, this one guy that walked through our company area, and he was only there about 12 hours, was not issued a flak jacket. Said, you'll get one online. They didn't have one online. We got a mortar round right there, and every time that anniversary comes around, I think of that guy. So that's the reason I wanted to.
He didn't have a flak jacket on.
To those that didn't make it. And that's been my legacy, I guess you'd say. I know all these guys feel the same way. They lost somebody, lost that guy next to you, and what have you. That's tough. I'd never been to a funeral. I'd never been that associated with death. And to find pieces you know, that puts a lot in the backside of your mind, and it's hard to get rid of. So when these Memorial Days comes up, Veterans Days comes up, it's about the guys that suffered the most. And those guys in it, I don't know, he's talking about the Korean War, where I was on line when the truce was signed. So I have a special recognition for that. And I was fortunate to get to go back and see what that grew into, that nation has. If they would combine it and get over that truce, that whole peninsula would be golly, booming. But it's, you know, it's that fight against it.
Now, you were one of the people who was drafted in this room.
Yes, yes.
And you were drafted?
No, I joined it. I was gonna get drafted, but I joined the Navy because I didn't want to go into the Army. If they drafted me, they'd put me in the Army.
Yeah.
I wanted to go in the Navy, so that's why I joined it.
Okay. So then you're the only one in the room who was drafted?
Pardon me?
You're the only one in the room who was drafted?
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay.
Well, I knew full well when I got through basic, I had 7 days delay in rounds. And it changed my life forever because I left a new bride and went straight across.
Yeah.
And when I hit the shores, you know, pushed on north. And my sole observation was, you ain't gonna make it back to that. So, you know, if that don't change your picture of your total life, see, I'm fortunate. I mean, I've been blessed. I've covered the continent, and I got a lot of hobbies and all that stuff. So. But that, yeah, it changed things, but it made me a better person.
You want to say something, sir?
Yeah. I have a picture of me coming out of a gun barrel out of the USS Wisconsin.
Like Evel Knievel shot out of a cannon?
Yeah.
You're in the gun barrel there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you wanted to see it, I could carry it to you.
I'm surprised you don't have it with you.
Yeah. I'm sure that's a great picture. Yes, I would like to see it.
He's got it. I've seen it.
Next time we come here, I can bring it with me.
All right.
I can't get it. I don't want to give it away.
Any other thoughts on the draft? It's something we had talked
I
about.
think they'll reinstate it.
Is it in place now? I don't know.
I don't know, but it has been a part of every war. Military conscription has been a part of every war America's fought in.
Well, you got to have it.
So whether you like it or you don't, it's been a part of
They
it.
need men. Yeah, right then.
Yeah.
They're not gonna,
During World War II, I had 5 brothers drafted in them. One of my brothers was a doctor. And one that was my 6th brother, he joined the Navy and he was in the submarine, the USS Sea Robber. He was in Pearl Harbor when it was bombed, and he was able to get away from
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and the draft for World War II came before the war, before the United States even entered the war. 1940, the government issued the draft. They were getting ready. They knew it would have to happen, and they were getting ready for it. Can we talk about your branch of the armed forces? Because we've got a few branches here. I don't know that we have them all. We've got the Marines. We've got the Air Force.
Navy,
Army. Okay.
everybody the Coast Guard.
Okay.
Coast Guard.
Okay.
And they're kind of quasi. I don't know if they're military or what they are.
Well, can we talk about your branch of the armed forces and kind of what you got out of that? And we'll start with you.
Well, I was in the Air Force. I volunteered to go into the Air Force. I didn't want to go into the Army. There was no, I don't think there was a draft in 1950. But did I tell you how I joined? Or I was working in Texas. Or
Yes,
I think I told
you
you.
did.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was a opportunity
Yeah.
to get my college funded.
Yep.
That's why I joined. And, probably the best decision I ever made in my life. I learned more in those 4 years and I've learned the rest of my life.
Wow.
It was eye-opening, talking, being thrown in with a bunch of guys from all over. I had a pair of twins from New York City. They didn't know how to drive a car. And I was just blown away. But how can that be? Well, of course, they don't need a car in New York City. And so I learned a lot of things as we went along.
What did you do in the Air Force?
I was a control tower operator first on, then over in Korea I was approach controller. And I don't know, I thought of staying in the control tower business as a civilian, but my then wife didn't want me to do that because you had to spend time at all these little small airports to work your way up to Chicago or somewhere. But anyway, I look back on it as a positive experience. I have nothing bad to say about the military.
And how about you? What's your branch, and what did you do, and what did you think about it?
Well, I was third class in my branch, and I was very nice. There's one thing about I like, when I was in Korea, we were there 3 different times. The first 2 times, it was a politician war. We stayed out far enough out to sea that they could not kill us, and we could only fire one 16-inch battery, only 1 gun a day. And if they didn't fire that day, we could have 2 the next day. Anyways, that went on, and we went back there. We just did that, went back. The third time we went over there.
In the Navy.
Huh?
In the Navy?
Maybe, yeah. The third time we went over there, Eisenhower was running for president. And Eisenhower said that if he got elected president, that he would have the conflict over with within 3 to 4 months. And we were there when he was there. The admiral come on board on a loudspeaker and he said, "Sailors, I'm going to tell you something that I don't like to have to say. Somebody's going to go home in a pine box, and somebody's going to go home hurt. When we sign GQ, we mean GQ." And he says, "It's not going to be fun." He says, so we went in, and the first thing we did is he says, the next day, GQ was sounded, and we went into Songjin Harbor.
What's that initial stand for?
Pardon?
CQ, or what's that you're saying? What is the CQ, or what's that?
GQ means that everybody manned their guns.
Quarters.
General quarters?
Charge of quarters.
Charge of
Quarters. The charge of quarters.
Oh, never heard it.
Everybody mans their guns. Okay. So we went in there, and I just happened to be in turret 3, and I had one of the guns, in charge of one of the guns. And I happened to have this periscope there that I could see. As we got in, nothing was going on. As the ship started turning, right at the present time, this is funny, at the present time, I can feel my shaking like this. This is about the time they opened up on us at 3 different sides, 3 different ways. So naturally, they told them the ship to get out of there. So they opened up to get out of there. They fired their engines up to get out of there, and that ship just shook it just like this. And we got out of there, and we had to load the ship twice in the 3 months that we were there with ammunition. Third time we went to Norfolk. The other 2 times we never had to load it. That's how many times we fired it. And there was, I think, about 18 people got killed, 18 men got killed. I think there was 26 or 27 that were injured when we went back to the United States.
And when you look back on your military service, what do you take away from it? What do you think about your time in the military?
Oh, I think it was a nice time. I enjoyed it very, very much. And I enjoyed it very much because one thing about it was I was born up on a farm, and I'm one of 13 children. And when I was growing up on a farm, I learned how to work. My father made us work. We did not goof off. So when we went aboard ship, they were putting Wisconsin in commission. And we had to do all the cleaning and everything like that. So when we run out of something, I'd always ask them something else to do, where the other ones would just sit back. I volunteered for everything like that. So I really enjoyed it very much. So I really got treated pretty good aboard.
That's interesting that you remember Eisenhower promising to end the war in 3 to 6 months. My brother was deployed to Korea in 2010, and we still have U.S. troops over there today in 2025.
Yeah, but the
He's
war,
eligible to join this group. He served in Korea.
but the conflict is over with.
How about you, sir? Which branch and what did you do, and what do you remember most?
Well, I was in the Army, and the Army is your basic soldiers that's on the ground, that takes the ground in combat, that holds the ground. They're the one that sleeps on the ground in the trenches. I guess the Army is one of the worst ones to be in. Marines probably pretty close, but the Army is the one that really holds the ground, and they're the one that's most in danger from fighting. Fortunately, I was in a position that I didn't have to be do any fighting. The first times I was in 46 to 48, I spent 2 years in Tokyo, Japan, in the GHQ, General MacArthur's headquarters, as a clerk. Then the second time in the Korean War, I went in and we were activated. I was in a reserve unit here at Knoxville, 822nd Tank Battalion, and we were activated almost as soon as the Korean War started. Actually, about 3 weeks after it started, we were notified that we were going to be activated. It was another couple 3 weeks before we were actually activated. We went to Camp Pole to train for tank battalion, and I was the first sergeant of the company, and so I didn't actually go out and do any training or anything. My duties were administrative type of work as first sergeant of the company. But then I was sent to Korea in 51, and in Korea I was assigned to the 2nd Infantry Division, 38th Infantry Regiment of the 2nd Infantry Division, on the Heartbreak Ridge. They were just finishing up the battle there. That was one of the last major battles before, after they had started the armistice negotiations. And the 2nd Infantry Division was the one that was completely involved there, and they had all units of it, all 3 regiments, the artillery, the tank battalions, engineers. They were all involved in taking Heartbreak Ridge. But they just finished up there as I joined them. I was only there for maybe a week or 2, but I could see the artillery shells bursting, flares dropped at night to keep everything lit up. We had to go to the regiment for briefings. I was a warrant officer at that time. And we had to go through a minefield, roped off to get to the division headquarters. But then my company was sent to the rear to guard Corps headquarters. And we spent 3 or 4 weeks there, and then we went back to the front lines. Then we're signed back to the front lines, and as soon as we got back up there, I had an appendicitis attack, and I went back to the Rio Station Hospital, MASH Hospital, in Jeep. That was operated there in a tent with stretchers on sawhorses and a light, number 10 can, grass floor and everything. That's where I was operated at. I spent a couple days there, then started back. They were going to send me to Tokyo to recover. And I was sent back on an ambulance bus, then got on a train, then I was put on an ambulance plane and sent to Tokyo to recover. I spent about 3 weeks in recovery, went back to the front lines again, my company, the 2nd Infantry Division. And we were at that time actually in North Korea, where the unit was at, that's called it the Iron Triangle. And our unit was actually in North Korea. And we spent several months there. The men, enlisted men of the company, or the company officers, except myself, they would spend about a month on the front lines in the trenches, and then they'd be back in reserve for maybe another month, and then they'd go back, and just back and forth. But then they would have trouble in Poczobut with the prisoners on the island. There they had 80 to 100,000 prisoners there, and they were having trouble with them. And we were sent there then to assist the guards on that prisoner. And about the time we got there, they captured the prisoners, captured the camp commander, General Todd, held him for about 3 days, released him. He was reduced then and retired from service because he let him capture. The other general, his assistant, took over for about a week, and then they relieved him, and he was reduced and retired from service. Then the assistant commander of the 2nd Battalion, General Boltner, they sent him in to take charge of the camp, and he was in charge of it then till, well, he was still in charge when I left. I stayed there then for, we was down there 3 or 4 months, and they decided things were under control, and they were sending the unit back online, but my time was up, so they sent me back to the States. And by the way, when in December of 51, I got a combat incident badge. But like I say, I didn't have to. I went up on the front lines many times to pay the men, or see if they had supplies and all that, because I was in charge of battalion supplies. I had changed from what was the first sergeant, they called it unit administrator. I became a warrant. Same thing, unit administrator, first sergeant. But they transferred me to battalion supply. So I was in charge of, assistant in charge of all the supplies. So I would be up on the front lines constantly checking to make sure that they had supplies. And so.
How long were you in Korea?
About a year.
About a year.
About a year.
And you started in Tokyo.
I was in 46, first time I was in.
And you said you were working as a clerk.
Yeah.
At MacArthur's General Headquarters.
Yes.
Did you ever meet General?
Not personally. I've seen him many times, but no, I never met him personally.
And what led you to be a clerk at General Headquarters?
That's just what they.
That's just what they assigned you to do. Okay.
Well, I was able to type and clerical type trainings, I reckon, is what they did. I have no idea why they actually signed me to that.
Where did
But it was a great assignment.
Yeah.
Tokyo is the occupation, but in Tokyo, it's almost like being in Washington, D.C. Our service was 8 to 5, 5 days a week, time off to go and do things. We had all kinds of greatest clubs and recreational facilities, and that was a great assignment. Couldn't beat it. Now, Korea was just, that was just the opposite, of course, there.
And Bob, you were in the Marines
Yes.
and you drove a tank around the mountains, is what you told me before.
Oh, yes.
You wanna elaborate on that? First of all, why the Marines?
Well, I picked them out when I was a kid
Yeah.
during World War II. And one thing about boot camp and Camp Pendleton was they taught you that you didn't go to battle to die for your country, but make the other guy die for his. And stick together, no bad break ranks. And so when I got there, I was disappointed that offensive action had been curtailed. So we spent a lot of time practicing for offensive action. And disappointed that we didn't go take the Chinese on when we had the chance. And of course, being a driver, I had to be responsible for the tank being operational. And so when the temperature's minus 20, every 3 hours I had to go out at night and start the tank, and they'd run for 15 minutes. So I thought, boy, maybe if I'd been a gunner, I could sleep all night here. But in the meantime, since we didn't have the combat, active combat, we were on patrols. Everybody wanted to keep track of where the enemy lines were and what are they doing, and they did what they're supposed to. Now we're not fighting. So we had to climb mountains around, and it's kind of hard going through snow. It's pretty deep. So after trudging for a while, and you figure you can't stop, you fall over just to breathe. And everybody there was buying cigarettes. I thought, you gotta be kidding me. But anyway, that was it. We only had one guy who was in fact killed, and that was on patrol, hit a personnel mine. It fired up with magnesium particles that go straight to the bone, you know. But I had heard the guys who were there before I got there was telling me that the drivers and assistant drivers were, when they hit these landmines, the tank would leave the ground. That this escape hatch that you flipped and fell down, you could get out, was blowed out with explosion, cut the legs off. So they had to weld these sprockets about this thick around so that it prevented that. Made it tough though when you cleaned the tank and you had to get that thing and put it back up, but still no legs off. But that was, I guess that was about it.
What do you take away from your time in the Marines?
Well, once a Marine, always a Marine, for one thing, simplified. And I just feel that for relatively small groups of guys were pretty dedicated to take on whatever's assigned. And I guess with these, all military guys know is you can do a lot more than you think you can. Your body can take a lot more, and you can do it without all sleep, and you can have insects crawl up your nose and your ears and things like that. It doesn't bother you a bit. Get used to that. But I think that military life can be a good career. I just came back and gave it serious thought about that and changed my mind later on. But I don't. I've always been glad with the experience I had, and that was about. I guess that's about it.
All right. And your branch of service, what did you do and what do you take away from it?
Well, my first branch of service, after I joined up, was the Army Air Corps at the time, and they sent me to school. They sent me to a radio and radar school, so I learned somewhat of a trade. So that helped me a lot later on. I learned electronics, and my job was to repair airborne radio and radar equipment. And my first assignment, they sent me to occupation groups, one of the occupation in Japan, and I was stationed in a town called Fukuoka. It's on the map there. It's halfway between Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So we received a lot of refugees from those two cities after they were bombed. We set up clinics and we worked with the orphans that came in. So I learned a lot about what war can do to people. That's one thing. My experience being in the service learned me rules, how to behave on the rules and regulations. That helped me a lot later on. And I didn't say I got discharged, but then got called back again during the Korean War. And I learned again, this was then became the Air Force, became the Air Force in 1947. And I was stationed with a bomb squadron based out of Florida, Tampa, Florida. And we were bombing Korea. First we have a wing go over to Okinawa, and I went to Okinawa with the wing to help support the B-29s on their missions.
Still working on the equipment?
Still working on the equipment, radar and radio. We had a shop, and I also worked on the planes themselves. So I was attached to a wing that went over there for a 4-month period and came back again after that 4-month period and came back to the base in Florida. So basically, I said I went to school afterwards on the GI Bill, but basically I learned how to take orders, how to live on the rules and regulations, and I learned somewhat of a trade.
And you were drafted.
Amen.
And your branch of service, and what did you do, and what do you take away from that experience?
Well, I guess the main thing I discovered myself because you have to know my growing up years. I was a very self-conscious individual, but anyway, that's nonetheless. But I guess what I took back from it was understanding of sacrifice. When you see life and death merge like that, you know. And we were also assigned one time as little A squad, and we knew if they broke through, we hold it. That's it. That's it. So you're always apprehensive about what's going to come next. But I guess I got fast rank in a situation like that. You go from the slick sleeve up real quick. I was only in there 21 months. Mm-hmm. Then after the truce was signed, we pulled back. And then I applied for early release to go back to school.
And what did you do in the Army?
Well, when I first got there, it was a heavy weapons type thing. Mm-hmm. So I lost all my hearing. Mm-hmm. So I got implants, which thanks to VA, they put that in there. So we wouldn't be talking much, I'd be reading lips. But that's so when I got there, got signed online, I was going through there, and I guess because they saw my collegiate record or whatever, they wanted to know if I could do some little bit of office work. And I thought, well, gosh, all that flashing everywhere, what kind of office is it here? You ain't gonna be here long, you're gonna be moving. So they said, can you type? I lied. I never typed a thing in my life. And because I saw that a better opportunity to be in the patrol. So they said, how would you like to be in Gray's registration? I said, well, what's that? You know, and I thought, it's because you process personal effects. Well, I thought that's what's within your pockets. And there's no typewriter anyway. You just fill out a little tag. So I said, yeah, I can do that. So when I walked into the bunker, they asked me, can you drive a truck? I said, I lied about the typewriter. I'll just lie about this truck too. So I went in the bunker, and then I was assigned to Gray's registration. So you know what that is. You hear that I still hear that phone ring. So and they say, you got several blowouts or how many dogs or what. So middle of the night or whatever, you go recover. I was at the end of the war where you actually recovered them. Guys are there, they're still. We did a lot of search and recovery there to find a lot of guys. So that was my emphasis on that. So I think it's, I grew up fast. But it was good training. I didn't mind the basic thing because I'm in that anyway for physical activity. So I didn't mind jumping over logs and crawling under this. So it was good. And the GI Bill, like Bill was talking about, that I rode that all the way through. So it worked out. So all the other loss of hearing, that's been the biggest challenge.
And last but not least, your
I didn't
branch
say
of service. You did? You said everything you wanted to say?
No,
Okay. Well, what?
You got an hour?
Yeah. We're about out of time, but what branch, what did you do, and what do you take away from it?
I was in the United States Air Force, 8 years, 4 years active, 4 years reserve. I was on call 3 times, never went. My takeaway from that is respect for these people here and the ones that Harold wrote about that never came back. There's a second respect I have for the great job the South Korean people did with their country after what we did over there. I didn't do anything over there, but I support it. Now, the next thing is the respect they have for us.
Yes, that's
Now,
Yeah, we didn't mention
the Korean people have more respect for us than all these other conflicts that we've had all jammed up together.
we all are invited every year to dinner. And
He
local
got
Korean.
invited back to Korea. He came back from
Oh, yeah, that's right. Took the honor flight over to Korea.
the Korean people are very thankful and show it.
They've done an awful lot. Boy, when
that.
it was a mess when we
The
left.
memorial down here.
Now you see,
Back from there.
these people have respect for them too.
Oh, yeah.
That is what I want to say. My last word today is respect for one another and the Korean people, South Korea.
Yes.
Make that clear. But my respect for them, my gratitude for my country for allowing me to do what I did, and this great nation I represented, is why that I enjoy my life. Now I got to raise a nice family. My son graduated UT.
Go Vols.
Yeah, and he's got a doctor's degree in education, just like you have. And he taught in China. He taught English as second language, 5 years in China. So this great nation is what I'm saying, not bragging about me and my family. This great nation and the opportunity and the respect I have for it and what these people did, that's finishes me.
That's a good spot to land on. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate you and appreciate your service. Thank you.